In my new novel, Creation Lake, I developed the voice of this narrator who tells the people she's surveilling that her name is Sadie Smith, and also uses that name with her boyfriend, Lucian, who she's basically sidled up with just in order to manipulate him into connecting her to this group of people she's keeping tabs on, who are kind of set on a collision course with French police. And, she's a dissimulator who kind of thinks that she's one step ahead of everybody else. So being in a foreign environment is her comfort zone. She only goes into foreign environments where she presents herself as something other than what she really is. It's not clear what she really is, and nor do I think it's pertinent. She is a kind of agent of destruction who screws over other people. I was partly inspired to develop a character like that after having heard about this case in the kind of mid-aughts where an eco activist, a kind of green anarchist, had been entrapped by this young woman working for the FBI. And I think he wanted something to happen between them romantically. And she was under enormous pressure from her higher ups to get some real dirt on this group of kids who, maybe just wanted to stop like another ski area from being built or an incursion into, an old growth forest. I don't remember what the details were. It doesn't really matter, but she kind of fed this guy this idea that if he planned an act of sabotage with her, something was going to end up happening between them. And she entrapped him. He was tried and convicted and got 20 years in federal prison, served 9 of those years. And then his lawyer, through a Freedom of Information Act, was able to prove that she had entrapped him. And I knew some people who knew that guy, and it was just such a sad story. I mean, I have my own projection on it, which is fine because I get to write the fictional version of things. But I thought, what kind of person would do that? Just go into this like milieu where people are idealistic and try to manipulate them and pressure them into committing an act that without your presence, they may not have even thought of committing. I don't know anything about that woman or who she even was. I don't know if her real name was ever even released to the public, but that stayed in my mind. And then later on, there was another case that really erupted into the public sphere with a UK undercover police officer who was surveilling actually some people that I knew personally. And he was busted by them when they found like 8 different passports in the glove box of his van. And they cornered him and he started to cry and was like, oh, I really love you guys and I'm confused. And actually, my allegiances are really with you and they're not with the state. And it's true that I have been working undercover for the Metropolitan Police, but that's not where my heart is at. But that was all in Act Two. And then this guy kind of disappeared into the private sector. And I think he went and worked for Blackwater or one of these other contractors that had been associated with Dick Cheney and involved in Iraq. And it's like, who is this guy? So I wanted to write this book set in the milieu of rural France among a group of kind of educated Parisians, young Parisians, who decamp to a rural outpost to try to make a go of subsistence farming and are being monitored by the state. And I didn't really know who the narrator was going to be until I realized that it was going to be this woman who calls herself Sadie Smith, who, like the woman in the first story, had entrapped somebody and then basically destroyed her own career working for public agencies because she's cost them something, because this earlier entrapment has resulted in a commutation of sentence or whatever you call it. The conviction was overturned. And so she has to retreat into the private sector and is now working for more shadowy, more shady types of people, like who have stakes in multinational corporations and are associated with politicians. And there are many less rules and much less oversight on her. And so she kind of thinks that she's controlling everybody and that they're all pawns in her game. And it remains to be seen whether they are and whether she has the upper hand with people or not. And so it was really fun to play with that tension over the course of the narrative. With this particular case, it's only been these conditions of deception with the narrator from my new book. So that was kind of new. And I knew right away from writing even the first paragraph who she was and what, not who she was in the sense of like knowing her early biography or, this idea of like retroactive psychology, explaining a character's motivations and decisions and acts based on what they themselves have gone through. I'm not really so interested in that. But I knew her sense of humor. I knew her cruelty, her bluntness, and maybe in a way she forms a kind of negative impression of me in that she's a kind of classical alter ego because I'm able to give her characteristics that I don't myself possess, maybe want to possess, maybe I'm afraid I actually do possess, and she can become a kind of accentuated version of qualities that I don't quite admire, but also some that I do admire. I guess that's what an alter ego is, you know? So that was a lot of fun. Also, she was a really good outlet for my juvenile sense of humor or my more sort of like louche sense of humor. And that was kind of new to have a character like that. So I had a lot of fun with her and I do miss her. And it doesn't seem like there's any rule against me returning to her. So that remains to be seen. This is the most fun I've ever had doing anything was writing this new book. Yeah, it was really fun.